The fastest way to lose
Do you
someone's
have any
respect
idea what
is to
you have
make
just
one
done?
mistake before they ever learn your
I
name.
I can
Chloe
clean it
Parker
up,
would
sir.
remember those words for years
No one has
because
ever
they crossed her
dared.
mind at the exact moment a cup of coffee slipped from her hand and poured across the signature page of a contract worth more than $200 million. The executive conference room fell silent. 30 senior leaders stopped moving as dark liquid spread over the polished table and soaked through the final presentation documents. Nobody reached for a napkin. Nobody offered advice. Every person in the room looked toward Ethan DeLuca, the disciplined chief executive officer whose demanding standards had helped turn DeLuca Global Holdings into one of Manhattan's most respected investment companies. Chloe stood beside the table with both hands trembling. She had been inside the building for less than an hour. She had not yet learned where the supply room was located, and she had already damaged the most important documents of the morning. At the far end of the table, Ethan closed the leather portfolio in front of him. His blue eyes moved from the stained contract to Chloe's frightened face. He did not raise his voice. He did not display anger. The absence of a reaction made the moment feel even heavier. One assistant near the door whispered that Chloe would not make it to lunch. Another employee glanced toward the hallway, as though expecting security to arrive. Chloe heard both of them. She forced herself to breathe. "I am sorry, Mr. DeLuca," she said. "I will replace every copy before the meeting begins." Ethan studied her for several seconds. "The meeting starts in 22 minutes, he replied. "Print another set." He lifted the only dry folder from the table and walked toward his private office. The executives followed him, leaving Chloe surrounded by ruined pages and complete disbelief. There was no lecture, no public humiliation, and no termination. There was only a deadline. Chloe gathered the damaged folders, found the copy room, and began printing new documents as quickly as she could without allowing another page to leave the machine unchecked. 20 minutes earlier, she had entered DeLuca Global Holdings carrying a worn leather handbag, a notebook filled with reminders, and the hope that this job could change her life. Beside the reception desk stood a polished wooden shelf holding 12 identical storage boxes. The boxes had been placed there temporarily after an administrative records review, but each one still carried the name of a former executive secretary. A receptionist explained that the belongings were waiting to be returned or shipped. Some of the employees had resigned after only a few days. One had left before the end of her first afternoon. Another had lasted almost a week before deciding the pressure was not worth the salary. A passing employee noticed Chloe studying the boxes. "Keep her desk clean," he advised. "It makes packing easier on Friday." Several people nearby laughed, not because they wanted her to fail, but because they believed failure was inevitable. Chloe managed a nervous smile. She had not accepted the position because she believed it would be easy. Her father had spent months recovering from a workplace injury, and the medical expenses had exhausted nearly all of their savings. Chloe had balanced temporary office jobs, evening classes, physical therapy appointments, and household responsibilities without asking anyone for sympathy. The salary at DeLuca Global Holdings offered stability she had not felt in years. She had promised her father that she would not surrender simply because the work frightened her. Now, as fresh pages emerged from the copy machine, she repeated that promise to herself. She inspected every sheet, organized the folders, and delivered the replacement set to the conference room 3 minutes before the meeting began. Ethan accepted the documents without comment. He opened the first folder, confirmed the pages were correct, and began the presentation exactly on schedule. Chloe returned to her desk with a coffee stain across one sleeve and the uncomfortable awareness that every employee on the executive floor was watching her. During lunch, the office manager, Margaret Ellis, sat beside her in the break room. Margaret had worked for the company for 11 years and possessed the calm patience of someone who had survived every leadership change, market crisis, and office rumor. "He gave you another chance," Margaret said. "Do not waste it." Chloe looked down at her untouched sandwich. Maybe he did not want to spend the morning completing termination paperwork. Margaret almost smiled. Ethan DeLuca never avoids a difficult decision because it takes time. She explained that Ethan did not expect employees to read his mind, despite what people claimed. He expected them to listen carefully, prepare thoroughly, and admit problems before those problems reached a client. Previous secretaries had often tried to appear flawless. They had missed appointments, blamed other departments, or waited until the final moment to reveal that something had gone wrong. Ethan had little patience for deception, disguised as confidence. Chloe listened and wrote 3 words in her notebook: listen, verify, respond. That afternoon, Ethan asked her to prepare the schedule for the following week's investor meetings. Chloe found 2 appointments overlapping by 30 minutes. The error had been created before her arrival, but explaining that would not resolve it. She contacted both offices, adjusted one meeting, rearranged transportation, and confirmed the changes with every participant. She placed the corrected schedule on Ethan's desk. While delivering another report, her sleeve caught a silver pen holder. Several expensive fountain pens rolled onto the hardwood floor. Chloe closed her eyes for half a second, then knelt to collect them. "I am sorry," she said. Ethan looked at the scattered pens, then at the revised schedule. "Did you change Tuesday afternoon?" he asked. Chloe stood and explained the conflict. Both clients confirmed the new times. The transportation reservation has also been updated. Ethan compared the schedules. Good. It was a single word, but it was the first sign that he had noticed something other than her mistakes. That evening, employees packed their belongings and headed toward the elevators. Chloe remained at her desk. She reorganized briefing folders, replaced outdated reports, and created a checklist for the following morning. She did not stay late to impress Ethan. She stayed because the idea of discovering another mistake after she reached home made it impossible to leave. When she finally stepped into the elevator, Ethan stood behind the glass wall of his office watching the lights disappear across the executive floor. He had seen ambitious people perform extraordinary work when an audience was present. He had also seen those same people ignore small responsibilities when recognition was unlikely. Chloe had spent her first day correcting problems without once asking who would receive credit. It was too early to decide whether she could survive the position, but Ethan sent a message to the administrative team canceling the request for another temporary secretary. Wednesday morning arrived with sunlight reflecting across the glass towers of Midtown Manhattan. Chloe reached her desk 40 minutes early. She checked every appointment, reviewed the investor materials, and confirmed Ethan's travel schedule twice. The executive floor gradually filled, and the whispers began. Some employees believed she had survived because Ethan was too busy to replace her. Others predicted that her next mistake would be her last. Chloe heard enough to understand their expectations, but she refused to argue. At 8:30, one of the company's largest investment partners requested an updated financial presentation for an afternoon strategy meeting. The finance department sent 2 files with identical names and different timestamps. Chloe could have selected the newest version and moved on. Instead, she compared the presentations page by page. One contained operating costs from the previous quarter. She contacted the analyst responsible, verified the current numbers, and replaced the outdated slides. Later that morning, thunderstorms over Chicago delayed several flights carrying business guests. 3 assistants began discussing which meetings should be canceled. Chloe opened the master calendar, reviewed each executive's priorities, and proposed a revised schedule that moved 2 meetings, preserved the main presentation, and prevented clients from spending hours waiting in the lobby. She contacted the transportation team and updated the catering order before bringing the plan to Ethan. "You changed the Chicago delegation to 3:30, he observed. "Their flight now lands at 1:45, Chloe said. "The airport transfer usually takes an hour, but I allowed an additional 45 minutes because of the weather." The Boston team agreed to meet at noon instead. Ethan reviewed the plan. "Proceed." The day continued without a visible crisis. Clients arrived, meetings began, and the corrected financial presentation drew no questions because no one knew it had ever contained inaccurate numbers. Near the end of the afternoon, Ethan called the department directors into his office. "Who found the financial discrepancy?" he asked. The finance director looked at his team. Nobody answered. Ethan placed the correct and incorrect presentations beside each other. Find out. Outside the office, Chloe organized folders for the next morning. She did not know that the question had been asked. An hour later, a finance analyst approached her desk. "Did you replace the operating cost slides?" Chloe nodded. The totals did not match the quarterly report. The analyst stared at her. "Why did you not tell anyone?" "The correct file reached the meeting," Chloe replied. That was what mattered. By the following morning, the story had reached several departments. Some people saw initiative. Others saw a new employee receiving attention they had worked years to earn. Among them was Victoria Reynolds, a senior executive assistant with 6 years of experience. Victoria was capable, organized, and proud of the reputation she had built. She had trained new assistants, coordinated international conferences, and managed complex schedules during the company's busiest seasons. She did not dislike Chloe, but she worried that Ethan's growing interest in the new secretary might make years of reliable work invisible. Thursday began with heavy rain covering Manhattan in silver reflections. Before 9 o'clock, a multinational technology company requested that an acquisition meeting scheduled for Friday be moved forward by 24 hours. Departments rushed to prepare financial reports, legal documents, and operational forecasts. Chloe created a checklist and tracked each item as it arrived. She discovered an appendix containing an outdated valuation and asked the legal department to replace it. She confirmed the conference room, presentation equipment, guest credentials, and lunch service. When she asked Victoria whether transportation had been reserved for the visiting executives, Victoria checked a message on her phone. "The request was submitted yesterday," she said. "Building services should have confirmed it." Victoria believed the task was complete because another assistant had sent the reservation form. Neither woman realized the transportation provider had requested additional passenger information and received no response. Less than an hour before the meeting, the building coordinator called Chloe and explained that no vehicles had been assigned. Chloe did not accuse Victoria or the assistant who submitted the request. She contacted 3 approved transportation companies, secured 2 vehicles, sent the passenger details, and adjusted the arrival schedule. The guests reached the building with 12 minutes to spare. The acquisition meeting began on time, and no client learned how close the schedule had come to failing. Afterward, Ethan asked who had coordinated the last-minute changes. Victoria could have remained silent, but she stepped forward. "Chloe handled the transportation problem," she said. "The original request was incomplete, and I told her it had been confirmed because I misunderstood the status." Ethan looked at her. "Thank you for correcting the record." He then turned to Chloe. "Next time, require written confirmation." "I will," Chloe answered. There was no attempt to embarrass either woman. The lesson was practical and finished. Later, Victoria found Chloe replacing meeting materials. "You could have told them I gave you the wrong information," she said. "You believed the reservation had been submitted," Chloe replied. "I believe it was confirmed. We both should have checked." Victoria studied her for a moment. "You are not trying to make the rest of us look careless?" Chloe almost laughed. "I spend most of the day trying not to look careless myself." The honesty dissolved some of the tension between them, but trust did not appear instantly. Over the next several weeks, Victoria watched Chloe more closely. She saw her return credit to analysts whose work she had corrected. She saw her stay after meetings to help assistants who had received no recognition. She also saw Chloe make small mistakes, admit them immediately, and repair them without creating excuses. Gradually, suspicion became respect. On Friday, Ethan assigned Chloe to review the preliminary schedule for an international investment group. Several employees noticed him place the confidential folder directly on her desk. Chloe verified travel plans, meeting rooms, security access, and presentation materials. One file would not open. Victoria suggested that the server might still be processing an update, but Chloe contacted information technology. The latest presentation had been saved inside a restricted editing folder instead of the executive archive. The team restored it before the afternoon meeting. That same day, a visiting executive left a confidential folder in the lobby while departing for the airport. Chloe recognized his handwritten notes on the cover. Rather than sending the folder through internal mail, she contacted building security and the driver's dispatch service. The chauffeur returned before entering the highway. The executive called Ethan from the car to express his gratitude. Ethan later found Chloe helping a new administrative assistant prepare name cards for a client dinner. The security supervisor said, "You recovered the folder," he said. Chloe looked up. The driver was still nearby. "You could have handed the issue to security." "I did. I also knew which guest owned it, so I gave them the information they needed." Ethan nodded. That distinction is why the folder was returned in 10 minutes instead of tomorrow. Chloe did not know how to respond to praise, so she returned to the name cards. Ethan remained beside the desk. "You do not have to make yourself smaller every time you do something well." She looked at him in surprise. "I'm not trying to." "Then stop apologizing for being useful." The sentence remained with her all weekend. The following Monday, an outdated spreadsheet appeared during a senior strategy meeting. The figures on the screen did not match the final projections. The chief financial officer asked who had prepared the presentation package. Every eye turned toward Chloe because she had verified the files on Friday. Her stomach tightened, but she remained standing. "I confirmed the updated spreadsheet before leaving," she said. "I did not know how the archive version returned, but I was responsible for the final package. I will help identify what happened and correct the process." Ethan did not interrupt. He asked information technology to review the document history. Victoria examined the access logs from her workstation and discovered that an employee in another department had restored an archived folder on Sunday while reorganizing shared files. The employee had not intended to change the presentation and had not realized the folder was connected to the executive meeting. The correct spreadsheet was restored within minutes. Ethan continued the discussion, but Chloe could not forget how quickly the room had judged her. That afternoon, she sat in the break room with a notebook, tracing every step of the file approval process. Ethan stopped at the doorway. "What are you doing?" "Finding a way to prevent archived files from replacing approved documents." "The error was not yours. The meeting package was my responsibility." Ethan entered the room and sat across from her. It was the first time they had spoken without a desk, schedule, or conference table between them. "Responsibility does not mean accepting blame for every event outside your control," he said. "It means responding honestly when something happens." Chloe looked at the process chart in her notebook. "Everyone expected it to be me, because they remembered the coffee. I remember it too. That is the problem." Ethan leaned back. "You treat every mistake as proof that you do not belong here, even after your work proves the opposite." Chloe closed the notebook. "People with more experience have spent years earning their positions. I arrived and started dropping things. You also found errors they missed. By accident, sometimes. The company does not care whether you notice a problem while standing or while picking up a binder. It cares whether you notice." Chloe allowed herself a brief smile. Ethan stood, designed the approval process. "President at tomorrow's operations meeting." Her smile disappeared. "To the department directors?" "Yes. I have never presented to them." "Then tomorrow will be the first time." Chloe spent most of the evening building the proposal. She created a protected approval folder, a named reviewer system, and a verification code tied to the final timestamp. By midnight, she had convinced herself that the plan was strong. At 7 the next morning, information technology informed her that the system would not work as designed. The company's international teams used different archive permissions, and Chloe's process could lock regional directors out of active documents. For the first time since joining the company, she faced a problem she could not solve through effort alone. The operations meeting was less than 2 hours away. Her instinct was to hide at her desk and rebuild everything herself, but she remembered Ethan's warning about people who waited too long to reveal problems. Chloe walked directly to Victoria. "I need help," she said. Victoria looked up, surprised by the urgency in her voice. Chloe explained the permission conflict and admitted that she did not understand the regional system well enough to correct it before the meeting. Victoria had coordinated international offices for years. She studied the proposal, then pointed to several sections. "The regional teams cannot share one protected folder, but they can share an approval registry. Each office keeps its own file, and the registry records which version is final. Chloe listened. Could we connect the verification code to the registry instead of the document? Yes, but we need information technology to create the link. Together, they called the department director. Victoria explained the regional requirements while Chloe revised the workflow. They completed the corrected proposal 12 minutes before the meeting. When Chloe stood before the department leaders, she did not pretend the solution belonged entirely to her. The original version contained an access problem, she said. Victoria Reynolds identified a regional alternative, and the information technology team helped us create a workable approval registry. Victoria looked at her with open surprise. Chloe presented the system, answered questions, and admitted where further testing would be required. Her voice trembled during the opening sentence, but it strengthened as the discussion continued. The information technology director approved a pilot program. Ethan waited until every question had been answered. Implement the test this week, he said. Then he addressed the room. Yesterday, many of us formed a conclusion before reviewing the facts. Assumptions solve nothing. Facts do. Ms. Parker accepted responsibility when the mistake was not hers. This morning, she discovered her first solution was incomplete and asked for help before that weakness became another problem. Both decisions required integrity. His attention moved briefly toward Victoria. Good work. After the meeting, Victoria joined Chloe near the elevators. You told everyone the first plan failed. It did not fail. It revealed something I did not understand. Most people would have hidden that. Chloe smiled. I considered it. Why did you come to me? Because you knew what I did not. Victoria was silent for a moment. A few weeks ago, I wanted you to prove you were not ready for this position. I know. Today I wanted you to succeed. Chloe looked at her. I know that too. From then on, their relationship became a partnership rather than a temporary peace. Victoria shared the knowledge she had gained over 6 years, including which clients preferred printed reports, which executives required additional travel time, and which departments often submitted information late. Chloe helped her organize a training guide for new assistants. They reviewed each other's work, challenged weak assumptions, and protected one another from carrying every responsibility alone. The change spread across the executive floor. Employees asked questions. Earlier, departments reported problems before deadlines. The office became more efficient, not because mistakes disappeared, but because people stopped wasting time hiding them. Ethan noticed the difference. He also noticed Chloe continued arriving before sunrise and leaving after everyone else, even when her workload no longer required it. One Thursday evening, he found her reorganizing a conference room that the facilities team would prepare the next morning. Why are you still here? He asked. The board meeting materials needed another review. You completed that review at 5:30. Chloe looked at the clock. It was nearly 7. I wanted to make sure the room was ready. The room has been ready for an hour. She placed a folder on the table. I suppose I lost track of time. Ethan crossed his arms. How many evenings did you visit your father this week? Chloe hesitated. 2. You usually visit 4. He understands that work has been busy. Does he? Or did you tell him not to worry? Chloe looked away. Ethan's voice remained steady. Reliability is not measured by how exhausted you are when you leave the office. I'm not exhausted. At that exact moment, she reached for a folder and knocked her untouched coffee toward the edge of the table. Ethan caught the cup before it tipped. Chloe stared at it, then began laughing. The sound surprised both of them. Perhaps I'm a little tired, she admitted. Ethan set the cup down. Go home. The name cards are not finished. Victoria finished them 30 minutes ago. The seating chart still needs approval. I approved it. Chloe searched for another reason to remain. Ethan opened the conference room door. Miss Parker, this is not a negotiation. She collected her handbag. Before leaving, she stopped beside him. Thank you. For ordering you out of the office? For noticing. Ethan did not answer, but his expression softened. Over the following months, Chloe's responsibilities increased. She coordinated executive meetings, acquisition schedules, investor visits, and strategic briefings. She attended joint industry events where leaders from other investment firms observe her work. Her father improved through physical therapy, and Chloe became more disciplined about leaving the office in time to visit him. Ethan occasionally asked about his recovery, never intruding, but always remembering the answer. Victoria became Chloe's closest colleague and helped train new administrative employees using the guide they had created together. One winter morning, Ethan moved Chloe's workstation from the outer administrative area to the desk outside his office. Employees understood what the change meant. That desk belonged to the person trusted with the chief executive officer's daily operations. Chloe carried her notebook, family photograph, and desk supplies to the new location. The photograph showed her standing beside her father in a neighborhood park, both smiling beneath red autumn trees. Ethan saw it as he passed. He looked stronger, he said. He walked almost half a mile that day. Pride warmed Chloe's voice. He complained the entire way, but he finished. Determination appears to run in the family. Months later, Chloe received a formal employment offer from another investment firm. The company's leadership had observed her coordinating several joint conferences and had contacted her through a professional recruiter. The salary was substantially higher, the title included immediate promotion, and the workload appeared more predictable. Chloe read the letter twice before placing it inside her desk drawer. Victoria discovered the envelope only because Chloe asked her to retrieve a supply catalog from the same drawer. "This is a serious offer," Victoria said. "I know. Are you considering it?" Chloe looked through the glass wall of Ethan's office. He was reviewing reports and speaking with a department director. "My father could use the extra money." "That is not an answer." Chloe closed the drawer. "I do not know what the right answer is." Victoria sat beside her. "A year ago, I would have told you to leave because I believed opportunities were limited and someone else's success reduced my own. I was wrong. Whatever you choose it because it is right for your life, not because you are afraid you have reached the limit of what you deserve here." Chloe carried those words for several days. The decision became harder when Ethan handed her a proposal placing every executive meeting, acquisition schedule, and strategic briefing under her supervision. The position was not merely an expanded assistant role. It was the beginning of an executive operations career. "I'm not sure I am ready," Chloe admitted. Ethan looked up from the proposal. "You have been performing most of these responsibilities for months. Performing parts of them is different from owning all of them." "That is true." His answer surprised her. "So, you agree I may not be ready?" "I agree the position will require you to learn. That is why it is a promotion instead of a reward." Chloe read the responsibilities again. "What happens when I make a mistake?" "You correct it." "What happens if it is a large mistake?" "You tell me before it becomes larger." "And if I disappoint you?" Ethan placed his pen on the desk. "You are asking the wrong question." Chloe waited. "The question is whether you will disappoint yourself by refusing an opportunity, because the person you were on your first morning still controls the way you see the person you have become." Chloe left his office, carrying the proposal and an uncertainty she could no longer ignore. That evening, she visited her father. He listened as she described both offers without revealing which one she preferred. "The other company will pay more," he said. "Yes. The new position at DeLuca will challenge you more." "Probably. Which one frightens you?" "Both." Her father smiled. "Which one frightens you because it is wrong, and which one frightens you because it asks you to grow?" Chloe looked at the two letters on his kitchen table. The outside offer promised security. Ethan's proposal promised responsibility. She knew which choice carried more meaning, but a deeper fear remained. What if Ethan's confidence in her was temporary? What if one serious failure returned her to the frightened woman standing beside spilled coffee? For 3 nights, Chloe barely slept. She drafted a list of reasons to accept Ethan's proposal and another list of reasons to leave. Each time she imagined herself accepting the promotion, she saw every department waiting for her to make a decision she could not repair. At work, she began checking finished tasks repeatedly. Victoria noticed her reviewing a confirmed schedule for the 4th time. "You've already checked that," she said. "I know. Then what are you looking for?" Chloe could not answer. The following afternoon, a regional director called with a change to a confidential acquisition briefing. Chloe heard the request, wrote it down, and still asked him to repeat it twice. After the call, she realized fear was beginning to interfere with the judgment Ethan trusted. That realization frightened her more than either job offer. She convinced herself that leaving before accepting the promotion would protect the company from the failure she believed was coming. At home, she wrote a resignation letter, deleted it, rewrote it, and left it unsigned beside her father's photograph. Near midnight, her father called. Chloe answered but pretended everything was fine. He listened to her silence and said, "You are allowed to be afraid. You are not allowed to call fear a plan." After the call ended, Chloe signed the letter anyway. The next morning, she placed a white envelope on Ethan's desk. He finished reading a report before looking at it. "What is this?" "My resignation." Ethan opened the envelope and read the letter. His face revealed nothing. Chloe folded her hands to stop them from trembling. "I'm grateful for everything you have done, but I do not think I should accept the promotion." "So you accepted the other offer?" "No." Ethan looked up. "Then why are you resigning?" Chloe searched for the right words. "Because everyone here sees someone capable, and I spend every day waiting for them to discover they are wrong. The responsibilities are becoming larger. Eventually, I will make a mistake that cannot be solved with another printed copy or a revised schedule. I have started checking decisions I already know are correct. Yesterday, I could barely trust myself during a simple telephone call. This company deserves someone who does not question every judgment." Ethan returned the letter to the envelope. "Do you know why the people before you left?" "Because the position was too difficult. Some left because the work was not right for them. Others were talented enough to succeed, but believed appearing perfect mattered more than being honest. When they missed something, they hid it. When someone else succeeded, they protected their pride. When pressure increased, they stopped communicating." He stood and walked toward the window. "You spilled coffee during your first hour. You dropped pens. You misunderstood systems. You presented a process that required someone else's expertise. You accepted responsibility for an error you did not create. None of those moments made this company weaker. What made the company stronger was what you did next." Chloe felt emotion tighten her throat. Ethan turned toward her. "You created a document system now used by every department. You asked Victoria for help instead of protecting your pride. You helped build a training program. You changed the way managers respond to mistakes. You taught people who have worked here longer than you that honesty is not weakness. I did not intend to change anyone. That is why they trusted you." Ethan returned to the desk and placed the resignation envelope in front of her. "You are not losing your judgment. You are allowing fear to review every decision after the work is already complete." Chloe looked at the envelope. "What if I fail in the new position?" "Then we identify what happened, correct it, and continue." "You make it sound simple." "It is not simple. It is clear." He pushed the promotion proposal beside the resignation letter. "I will not decide for you. Take both documents home. Bring back the one that represents the future you actually want, not the future your fear chooses for you." Chloe left with both envelopes. She did not make her decision immediately. That evening, she met Victoria at a small restaurant near the office and admitted what she had done. Victoria listened without interrupting. "Do you remember the morning you asked me for help with the approval system?" she asked. Chloe nodded. "I respected you more after that, not less. Before then, I thought you succeeded because you always saw what everyone else missed. That morning I realized you succeeded because you knew when another person could see more clearly." Chloe looked down at the promotion proposal. "What if I need help too often?" "Then you will be a director with a team instead of a director pretending to be an entire company." The following morning, Ethan arrived to find the signed promotion agreement on his desk. The resignation letter was gone. He looked through the glass wall and saw Chloe at her workstation speaking with a nervous new assistant. She was explaining the document approval system and encouraging the young woman to ask questions before problems became emergencies. Ethan placed the agreement inside his portfolio and began the day without ceremony. But when Chloe entered his office with a morning schedule, he said, "Good decision." Chloe met his eyes. "I believe it is." Ethan noticed a change in her answer. "Better." 1 year after Chloe's first morning, the reception area looked almost the same. The marble floors reflected sunlight, The elevators opened with perfect timing, and employees moved through the lobby with purpose. The storage boxes were gone. In their place, a bronze plaque rested beneath the empty shelf. It read, "Mistakes can be corrected. Character cannot be replaced." Chloe now served as director of executive operations. Her father had regained enough strength to walk through the park without a wheelchair, although he still complained about every hill. Victoria managed the company's administrative training program, and the two women continued improving the guide they had created together. Ethan remained disciplined and demanding, but employees no longer mistook high standards for a demand that they hide every imperfection. One autumn morning, a new executive assistant entered the lobby carrying a leather bag and an expression of controlled panic. Chloe welcomed her and began explaining the office. Before they reached the elevators, the assistant dropped an entire stack of onboarding folders. Pages scattered across the polished floor. The young woman froze. Several employees looked up, then left their desks and began gathering the papers. Chloe knelt beside her. "Take a breath," she said. "We have time to fix this." Ethan stepped out of the elevator and picked up the final folder near his shoe. He handed it to the assistant. "Your first mistake is already behind you," he said. "Focus on your next decision." Relief replaced the fear on her face. Chloe looked toward Ethan, and for a moment they remembered another morning, another accident, and another frightened employee who believed one mistake had ended her future. Ethan continued toward his office. Chloe helped the assistant arrange the folders, then pointed toward the bronze plaque. "Does anyone still get fired for making mistakes?" the assistant asked. Chloe smiled. "People are held accountable here. That is not the same as being punished for being human." Together they walked toward the executive floor. As the elevator doors closed, Chloe caught her reflection in the polished metal. She no longer saw the woman with a coffee-stained sleeve, waiting for someone else to decide whether she belonged. She saw a leader who had learned that confidence was not the absence of doubt. It was the courage to act honestly, ask for help when needed, and continue moving forward. A mistake could explain what happened, but character would always reveal what happened next.